True or false amphibians? This is a non-fiction or real, true read aloud that is going to give us information on amphibians. The authors are Melvin and Gilda Berger. I'm going to put this book down for a moment because we are going to have an interactive read aloud. That means, like I said, this book is true or false. It's going to give us facts or information about amphibians. It's going to do that by asking us a question. And I want you to either tell me the answer, true, yes, that's real, that's a real fact, that's real information, or false, that's not true, that's not real information, that's not a real fact. You can do it by telling me true or false. Or if you want to take a minute to pause this video, you can make yourself little true or false cards. So this is T for true. When I ask you a question, you can say, T, true, I believe that's a real fact, that's real information. Or false, F for false. That means it's not true, it's not real information. Are we ready? True or false amphibians? We'll do the first one together. Ready? All amphibians live on land and in water. True or false? I am going to say T, true. This is a real fact, real information. Amphibians do live on land and in water. Let's find out if I'm right, and you're right if you answered true. True! Amphibians are animals that generally spend their lives part in water and part on land. Almost all are born in lakes, ponds, or streams. As adults, most amphibians leave the water to live at least some of their lives on land. Some continue to live near water. Others settle in places far from water, but most return to the water to lay eggs. Frogs and toads are the most common amphibians. True or false? T for true, F for false. True or false? True! If you answered true, you knew that fact. Frogs and toads make up the largest group of amphibians. These two kinds of animals are very similar, but there are some differences. A frog's skin is smooth and wet, but the skin of a toad is dry and bumpy. Also, most toads are chubbier than frogs, and many toads live far from water. Toads jump like frogs do. True or false? Go ahead and let me know. Do you believe that or do you not believe that? False! Toads cannot jump nearly as well as frogs can. In fact, toads rarely jump at all. Most of the time they walk on their very short legs. When attacked, frogs usually use their long, powerful hind legs or back legs to leap away. Toads sometimes use their hind feet to bury themselves in the ground to avoid predators. Brightly colored frogs are usually poisonous. True or false? True! All brightly colored frogs have poison glands in their skin. Any predator that tries to bite one gets a mouthful of bad-tasting liquid. Sometimes one bite is enough to make a predator let go of the frog. Other times, the poison is actually strong enough to kill the attacker. The tiny poison dart frog is one of the most dangerous amphibians of all. Frogs and toads are always easy to see. False! Many frogs and toads blend in with their surroundings, making them hard to see. Their skin is natural colors like green or brown, just like their environment. This camouflage often makes it easy to hide from snakes, their worst enemies. It also helps them catch crickets, worms, and other animals they like to eat. I'll hold that up close. Can you see the frog in that one? I don't even know. Maybe it's that right there. Maybe it's one of these up here. All frogs and toads call and croak. True or false? Do all frogs make a noise? False! Only male frogs and toads and a few females call and croak. This happens mainly in mating season. The males gather in ponds, swamps, and other wetlands. They puff out their throats and force air over their vocal cords, la la la, to make the sounds. The females hear the males calling. They find them, mate, and lay their eggs. Frogs and toads lay many eggs at a time. True or false? True! Most female frogs and toads lay lots of eggs at a time in water. Generally, they lay the eggs and swim away. However, some carry them on their backs for safety. The water keeps the eggs from drying out. The eggs, which do not have shells, are covered with a jelly that protects them. Fully formed frogs hatch from eggs. True or false? False! Generally, larvae hatch from the eggs. The larvae are called tadpoles or pollywogs. They have small heads, long tails, and look nothing like their parents. For some other species, however, tiny froglets hatch from their eggs. Tadpoles become adults all at once. That means, boom, they just grow into a frog. False! Tadpoles can take up to 5 years to change into adults, although most reach adulthood within 3 months. As the larvae develop and become larger, they grow hind and front legs. That means back legs and front legs. Hind, back, and front. At the same time, the larvae develop lungs that they can breathe air with. Now they're finally ready to live on land as adults and have young of their own. Frogs and toads sit in the sun to keep warm. True or false? True! Sitting in the sun helps frogs and toads keep warm. That is because frogs, toads, and other amphibians are cold-blooded. Their bodies stay at about the same temperature as their surroundings, or wherever they are. They're outside. If the weather gets too cold, the animals are not able to move around. In winter, many go to sleep in holes they dig in the ground. Most frogs and toads are small. True or false? True! Frogs and toads are generally smaller than most fish, birds, or mammals. An average frog or toad can fit in the palm of your hand. One of the smallest frogs is the Brazilian gold frog. This tiny creature is only about as long as a housefly and weighs less than a ping pong ball. Salamanders are lizards. True or false? False! Salamanders are amphibians. Lizards are reptiles. The two kinds of animals sometimes get confused because they look similar. But here's how you can tell them apart. Most salamanders have smooth, moist skin and short toes, and they lay their eggs in water. Most lizards are dry and scaly and have claws on their long toes and lay eggs on land. All salamanders have tails. True or false? True! Salamanders have very unusual tails. If a salamander loses its tail, it grows back. Sometimes a predator, like a snake, owl, or turtle, grabs a hold of the amphibian's tail to escape. The salamander drops its tail and runs away. In time, the salamander grows another tail that is as good as new. All salamanders are small. True or false? False! The biggest salamander and the biggest amphibian of all is almost twice the size of a toddler. That's like a 2-year-old. The salamander that holds this amazing record is the Chinese giant salamander. When fully grown, it can be as long as 6 feet long. That's bigger than me. From the tip of its nose to the end of its tail, the Chinese giant salamander spend all of their time in the water. Salamanders are most active during the day. True or false? False! Salamanders usually stay out of sight during the day. They spend the daylight hours hiding in rotten logs, among fallen leaves, under rocks, or in similar places. These cool, dark, humid hiding places keep the salamanders moist and safe from their enemies. Salamanders are fussy eaters. True or false? False! Most salamanders will eat just about anything they can catch. Their main diet includes insects, spiders, and worms. When food is hard to find, salamanders can go for a long time without eating. The tiger salamander is one of the biggest eaters. When hungry, it will even eat other salamanders. Newts are salamanders. True or false? True! Newts are a kind of salamander. They have tails like other salamanders do, but they're flatter. Their skin is also often drier and bumpier. Some female newts lay eggs one at a time on plant leaves under the water. They use their feet to wrap a leaf around each egg. The young hatch from the egg and return to the water. Some, called F's, live on land before going back to the water. A mud puppy is a large salamander. True or false? True. Mud puppies are large salamanders that are found in Mississippi, Georgia, and other parts of the United States and Canada. Most live in freshwater ponds, streams, lakes, and rivers. They swing among water plants, eating small animals and fish eggs. Mud puppies are active at night and in winter too. Many amphibians are endangered. True or false? True. Many kinds of amphibians are having trouble laying their eggs and raising young. By cutting down forests, draining swamps, and building houses and roads, humans are destroying the places where amphibians live. Oil pollution and acid rain are spoiling the clean water and amphibians need to survive. It's too late to save amphibians. True or false? False! There is still time to save endangered amphibians. Experts are studying the problem. Many adults and kids work to clean up the land and water where amphibians live. Governments pass laws to save the amphibians' habitats. Some set aside protected areas where amphibians can make their homes, find mates, lay eggs, and grow in number. I hope you really enjoyed this story. It is an informational story. I hope you learned a lot of facts about amphibians. And maybe you even got most of them right, or just a couple right, of the true and false amphibians book.